Welcome to Right versus Left News, your daily briefing on the stories that matter, told from both sides of the aisle. I'm your AI host, Chris, and each day I bring you the most important political and cultural news, with perspectives from conservative and progressive voices. No spin, no agenda, just the facts and the opinions that shape our national conversation. Let's dive in. Here's what we're watching today. Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. First, the Senate Commerce Committee reconvenes to vote on tech and safety bills, from kids' online protections to satellite cybersecurity. Second, global finance chiefs gather in Washington for the IMF and World Bank spring meetings, with uncertainty from tariffs and a slowdown in the Strait of Hormuz still weighing on energy markets. Third, the White House releases its 2026 economic report of the president, laying out the administration's case on growth, trade, and inflation. Fourth, the FTC edges towards settlements in its investigation tied to advertiser boycotts of Elon Musk's X. And finally, a 5 p.m. Eastern deadline looms for the Justice Department to hand Congress materials that Democrats say reveal new details in the Trump classified documents saga. Before we jump into today's stories, a quick word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Family GPT, the AI chat platform actually designed for kids. If your children are curious about ChatGPT, but you're worried about what they might see, Family GPT gives you full parental controls, content filtering, and the ability to align responses with your family's values. Whether Christian, Muslim, Jewish, secular, and many more. Monitor every conversation, set usage limits, and let your kids explore AI safely. No ads, no data selling, complete privacy. Sign up free at familygpt.chat.
Thanks to our sponsors for supporting Right vs. Left News. Now let's get to the headlines. First up, the Senate Commerce, Science and Transportation Committee reconvened at 10 a.m. Eastern to mark up a stack of bills: the Stop the Scroll Act, Senate Bill 1885, the Secure Space Act, the Satellite Cybersecurity Act, a reauthorization of the National Quantum Initiative, and the No Fentanyl on Social Media Act. They met on Capitol Hill and the session streamed online. The agenda crosses party lines. One highlight, the Stop the Scroll Act, would require companies to disclose risks from social media's mental health impacts on kids and teens. Conservatives say Congress is right to push big tech on children's safety and to rein in addictive design and algorithmic feeds, while also investing in space and quantum security. Groups on the right have called for tougher online safety rules and for updating legal shields like Section 230. Civil liberties advocates on the left warn that some proposals could chill lawful speech and expand surveillance through age checks and new liability schemes. They urge lawmakers to target design harms without mandating ID verification or undermining encryption, especially for sensitive topics like health and LGBTQ content. Next, the IMF and World Bank spring meetings kicked off in Washington and run April 13th through 18. The agenda is packed: growth, debt, climate finance. But the backdrop is tense: conflict-related uncertainty and a still constrained Strait of Hormuz, key for oil flows and inflation. Conservatives argue U.S. policy should prioritize domestic growth, energy production, and strategic tariffs as leverage, and they often view multilateral warnings as overstated or ideological. They see tariff pressure as tough medicine that can reset trade relationships. Progressives and many mainstream analysts counter that sweeping tariffs, coupled with war-related energy shocks, risk slower growth and stickier prices. They call for cooperation on supply chains and climate finance to blunt those risks. Third, the White House released the 2026 economic report of the president. The Council of Economic Advisers says it spans 14 chapters, defending the administration's America First trade framework and laying out arguments on competition, energy, and productivity. Fiscal hawks point to rising interest costs and call for spending restraint and structural reforms, warning that any growth plan has to confront the debt burden. Left-leaning economists and budget watchdogs say the report glosses over tariff headwinds and distributional effects. Analyses point to risks for growth and persistent deficits, even if near-term data look resilient, and some models estimate that broad, long-lasting tariffs would trim long-run GDP and wages. We'll be right back with more of today's news after this brief message.
This episode is brought to you by Family GPT, the AI chat platform actually designed for kids. If your children are curious about ChatGPT, but you're worried about what they might see, Family GPT gives you full parental controls, content filtering, and the ability to align responses with your family's values. Whether Christian, Muslim, Jewish, secular, and many more. Monitor every conversation, set usage limits, and let your kids explore AI safely. No ads, no data selling, complete privacy. Sign up free at familygpt.chat.
Thanks again to our sponsors. Now back to the news. Fourth, the Federal Trade Commission told a federal appeals court it's negotiating antitrust settlements in its probe into alleged advertiser boycotts of social platforms, including Elon Musk's X. The dispute follows a judge's order last year that paused an FTC information demand directed at Media Matters over alleged collusion. And in a separate case, a Texas court recently dismissed X's antitrust suit, accusing multiple advertisers and trade groups of coordinating a boycott. Conservative media see alleged advertiser cartels and brand safety alliances as pressure campaigns to starve right-leaning speech, so they welcome scrutiny of any collusion in ad markets. Progressive and mainstream outlets argue that government pressure here risks punishing watchdog speech and chilling research on hate or misinformation. They note prior court skepticism of the probe and warn that advertisers' independent brand safety choices should not be recast as antitrust violations. Finally, a 5 p.m. Eastern deadline hits today for the Justice Department to provide the House Judiciary Committee with materials that Representative Jamie Raskin says include a damning 2023 memo about Trump's retention of classified documents. He claims some records were tied to business interests, and that a classified map was shown on a June 2022 flight. DOJ and the White House dismissed the claims as political theater. Allies of the White House call Raskin's push a stunt, arguing the case is closed and that the memo is being weaponized to keep an old narrative alive. Others emphasize the specifics in the memo and the oversight stakes, saying Congress should see the documents to assess potential conflicts and national security risks, regardless of the case's status. They frame today's deadline as a test of transparency for Attorney General Pam Bondi's Justice Department. Quick recap. Congress is advancing a wide-ranging tech and safety agenda while global finance ministers weigh growth headwinds at the IMF and World Bank meetings. The administration's economic report sets out its case as deficit and tariff debates intensify. Meanwhile, the FTC inches toward possible settlements involving advertiser boycotts on X, and Capitol Hill presses DOJ for documents in the continuing fight over Trump's classified records. We'll keep tracking what moves next, and who wins the argument on each side. That's it for today's episode of Right versus Left News. Remember, understanding both sides isn't about picking a team, it's about being informed. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and join us tomorrow for another balanced look at the day's biggest stories. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.